Hello everyone, it's fantastic to be here with you today. I'm looking forward to your question at the end of my presentation. Let me bring up my slides. Now, today I want to talk to you about cloud-based bioinformatics and how it's accelerating health research. But before we get started with that, I figured let's pay tribute to the women who have come before us, who paved the way so that we now can stand on the big stage and share our research and tech innovation. Because 100 years ago, that wasn't normal. My female tech hero is Ruby Payne Scott, who was the first female radio astronomer working for CSIRO, the research organization that I'm working for. Now, what makes her story special was that when she got married in 1944, women were required by law to retire. But that wasn't Ruby's plans. She had more inventions to come, so she kept on working. And she demonstrated that women can have a family as well as a career. And for that, I want to say thank you for the opportunities that you've created for us. Since Ruby has worked for CSIRO, there were many more inventions because at CSIRO, we're passionate about translating research into products that people can use in their everyday lives. Specifically, Wi-Fi, which is now used in 5 billion devices worldwide, and CSIRO invented together with Macquarie University. CSIRO has also worked with Monash University and created the first treatment for influenza. And on a lighter note, has worked with SAMRI in Adelaide to create the Total Wellbeing Diet, which is now on the book bestseller list alongside Harry Potter and the Da Vinci Code. From that perspective, CSIRO has a good balance between products that people need and products that people enjoy. So today I want to tell you 3 stories. The first one is around machine learning and how we can understand human health with it. The second one is around cloud computing and how it can help prevent future pandemics. And the last one is on science accessibility and how to empower industry and innovation. So my area is human genomics, and I'm passionate about this because our DNA encodes every single cell in our body. It has a blueprint for every single cell in our body. And from that perspective, everyone has mutations in there that can affect clinical care, be that how they respond to certain drugs, how they react to certain treatments or which treatments are possible for them, all the way to encoding the future risk for certain diseases. But with all that information encoded in the genome, it is a large space. There's a lot of information in there. And therefore knowing which one of those individual changes, mutations, affect disease is quite difficult. In fact, there are 3 billion letters in there, and every single one of them could encode your future disease risk. Now, in order to solve that puzzle, we created a machine learning method that is able to find these disease associations. Now, this tool is called VariantSpark, and what I'm plotting here is the runtime compared to the increase in dataset sizes. And what you can see, the blue line, is that VariantSpark increases linearly, whereas all the other technologies, for example, developed by Google and other academic institutions, they are growing exponentially. Therefore, VariantSpark is 3.6 times faster on current data than all the other technologies that are currently available. But for tomorrow's data, which could be more than 1 trillion data points, VariantSpark can process that kind of data in 15 hours, whereas other tools would take up to 100,000 years. So with this awesome compute power, we're applying it to the real world. In fact, we're applying it to a genomic dataset that was created in order to understand ALS, which is a motor neuron disease that Stephen Hawking had, in order to find out what are the molecular origins of the disease and develop new treatment for it. This brings us to the second story around serverless computing and how it can prevent future pandemics. Now, with the COVID pandemic, we know that the pathogens that are causing it mutate. So we've heard about the UK strain or the South African strain. And in fact, there are lots more. And what I'm showing here is in different colors, all the different strains that are currently active around the world. And below that, the timeline, where at the beginning there were only 2 strains, and now there are many more. And of these strains, some can have an effect on disease progression and how effective certain vaccines are. Therefore, it is vital to actually monitor how this pandemic or how the virus is mutating, the evolution of the virus, in order to identify those potentially risky strains in the future. And for that, we've created two serverless technologies, two cloud services that are continuously running and monitoring the situation. So the first one is around tracking the virus evolution, where we basically take the fingerprint of every virus strain that is out there, or every sample that is out there, and can compare two fingerprints between two different samples, and the distance between them is the evolutionary distance. And if we overlay a timeline to that, we can see whether it's progressing away, it's evolving away from the current majority of the viruses. The second one is around tracking the origin of disease, or of a particular infection. And here we take the profile, the genetic profile of the sample that was taken from one individual and compare it to all the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands even, of samples that were collected around the world in order to identify the closest relative to the infection that person had, because it is likely to be the origin and where that person got the infection from. Being able to tap into the hundreds of thousands of samples that are available around the world really shows the value of collaboration and this newfound trust in science. And this is the next story. Cloud makes talent and solutions much more accessible. A solution that is developed on one side of the world could be applied to a research problem or an industry problem on the other side of the world. This is possible with infrastructure as code, where everything is encoded in a single file, ranging from permissions to the interactions with the storage system to the actual algorithms and analysis workflows. Therefore, an academic research organization could develop a workflow that an industry partner then spins up in their account with their private data and can apply this academic brilliant solution to their data. And this really makes the distribution of individual analysis workflows fast. In fact, it's at the speed of cloud. For example, Variant Spark is available on the AWS Marketplace and was highlighted by the Australian Financial Review as the first solution, cloud-based solution on the marketplace for a health product by a public sector organization. Variant Spark is developed here in Australia, but it's now applied in the US by a company looking at kidney disease. Cloud-based marketplaces not only provide a pathway to commercialization or better collaboration, I would argue they make science more accessible and provide better inclusion. So with that, allow me to introduce the concept how I think about equality, equity, and inclusion. So equality means you give resources to everyone, whether they require them or not. So in my example here, those three people want to watch a soccer game. The large male here can see above the fence, whereas the female had to have this little booster box in order to see over it. And the box is not going to help that person in the wheelchair. Therefore, equity means that you provide the right resources to the people that need them. So the man here in that case does not need the box because he can look over the fence, whereas the female would benefit from having two boxes to look over the fence more easily, and the person in the wheelchair would need a ramp in order to get up. But the pinnacle of all of this is inclusion, where you don't have to provide a crutch in order to overcome obstacles. You remove the obstacles. In this case, remove the fence and put a mesh fence in there where everyone can see through. And this is how I think of digital marketplaces. With digital marketplaces, you can subscribe to a solution, you can roll it out into your account, and it removes all the barriers, and you can build upon it and have the data that you want to protect accessing the analysis rather than the other way around. So with this, the 3 things to remember from my talk are that there's more data than ever before. So we definitely need purpose-built machine learning solution in order to find the actionable insights in them. The speed of scientific innovation is increasing, and we therefore need to have modular serverless architecture in order to keep pace, where everyone can build upon solutions that were created before them already. So with that, technology is become more collaborative, and the question is, are you in? So with that, let's go back to Ruby. Now, Ruby had to retire a couple of years later because she got pregnant. But her step in order to keep on doing her research, even when she started her family, was the first step into the right direction. Therefore, I would argue that all our individual small steps is leading to the right direction, and eventually there will be heroic changes coming from it. So with that, thank you for listening, and I hope I can catch you in the question section. If not, reach out to me on Twitter. Bye!